Every relationship begins with two people, but it never begins with only two people. It also begins with everything they carry, their memories, their fears, their expectations, their disappointments, their emotional habits, their childhood lessons, their old wounds, their unfinished stories. This is why relationships can become confusing so quickly. Two people may be talking about one situation, but emotionally reacting to something much older. A simple delay in replying to a message may feel like rejection. A small disagreement may feel like abandonment. A quiet moment may feel like punishment. A request for space may feel like danger. A need for reassurance may feel like pressure. On the surface, the issue may look small, but underneath the surface, an old pattern may be waking up. This is the focus of today's episode. The hidden patterns we bring into every relationship, because many relationship problems are not created only in the present moment. They are often old emotional patterns showing up in new situations. In the first episode, we looked at why relationships feel so difficult today. We talked about emotional exhaustion, communication struggles, vulnerability, trust, and the need for maturity. But now we go deeper. Because before we can understand why people behave the way they do in relationships, we must ask a more honest question. What are they carrying into the relationship before the conflict even begins? No one enters love, friendship, marriage, family, or emotional closeness as a blank page. Every person has learned something about connection. Some learn that love is safe. Some learn that love is unpredictable. Some learn that speaking honestly creates trouble. Some learn that silence is safer than truth. Some learn that they must earn affection by being useful, pleasant, agreeable, or strong. Some learn that needing too much makes people leave. These lessons may not be spoken out loud, but they often become the emotional rules people live by. And later, they enter relationships with those rules quietly, operating in the background. A person who learned that people leave may become anxious whenever someone pulls away. A person who learned that emotions are dangerous may shut down during hard conversations. A person who learned to please others may say yes while quietly building resentment. A person who learned that trust leads to pain may question even sincere love. A person who learned to survive alone may struggle to receive care, even when care is freely offered. This is why relationships often reveal parts of us we did not know were still wounded. We may think we are reacting only to what happened today, but sometimes today touches yesterday, and when yesterday is still unresolved, the present moment becomes heavier than it should. One of the most common hidden patterns people bring into relationships is the fear of abandonment. This fear does not always look dramatic. It can look like needing constant reassurance. It can look like overthinking every change in tone. It can look like panic when someone becomes quiet. It can look like assuming distance means rejection. It can look like clinging tightly because emotional uncertainty feels unbearable. To the other person, this may seem like neediness or pressure, but underneath, the person may be asking a deeper question. Are you still here? Do I still matter? Am I about to be left? When someone carries abandonment fear, even ordinary relationship moments can feel threatening. A busy day can feel like emotional distance. A delayed response can feel like neglect. A disagreement can feel like the beginning of an ending. The person may not be trying to control the relationship. They may be trying to calm a fear that feels bigger than the moment. But if that fear is not understood, it can create tension. The other person may feel accused, trapped, or constantly tested. Then they may pull away. And when they pull away, the fear of abandonment becomes stronger. This is how a hidden pattern can create the very situation it is afraid of. Another common pattern is emotional withdrawal. Some people do not move toward others when they feel hurt. They move away, they become quiet. They avoid difficult conversations. They say, "I'm fine," when they are not fine. They distract themselves with work, screens, busyness, or silence. They may care deeply, but they do not know how to stay emotionally present when things become uncomfortable. To the other person, withdrawal may feel cold. It may feel like rejection. It may feel like punishment. It may feel like the relationship no longer matters. But underneath withdrawal, there is often fear. Fear of conflict. Fear of saying the wrong thing. Fear of being overwhelmed. Fear of not being able to explain what is happening inside. Fear that emotions will lead to shame, blame, or loss of control. For some people, silence was once a survival strategy. They learned that staying quiet prevented arguments. They learned that showing emotion made things worse. They learned that the safest response was to disappear inside themselves. But what once protected them can later hurt the relationship. Because emotional withdrawal creates distance. And distance, if repeated often enough, becomes loneliness. This is why two people can care about each other and still feel disconnected. One reaches for closeness, the other retreats for safety. One says, "Talk to me." The other says, "I don't know what to say." One feels abandoned, the other feels pressured, and neither person may fully understand that both are afraid. This is one of the central truths of relationship psychology. Many conflicts are not between love and indifference. They are between two different protection systems. One person protects themselves by reaching, another protects themselves by withdrawing. One protects themselves by asking questions. Another protects themselves by avoiding them. One protects themselves by trying to fix everything immediately. Another protects themselves by needing time and space. If both people cannot see the pattern, they may keep blaming each other for the pain. But the deeper work is not only to ask who is wrong. It is also worth asking, what pattern is operating here? Another hidden pattern is people-pleasing. This pattern can look kind on the outside, but painful on the inside. A people-pleaser may avoid disagreement. They may say yes when they miano. They may hide their real feelings to keep peace. They may overgive, over-explain, over-apologize, and over-function. They may fear disappointing others so deeply that they abandon themselves. At first, this may make a relationship seem easy. There is less conflict. There is less tension. There is less visible disagreement, but over time, the cost becomes clear. The person who keeps giving more than they can afford may become resentful. They may feel unseen, unappreciated, or emotionally exhausted. But the other person may not even know there is a problem, because the people-pleaser never truly expressed what they needed. This creates a painful pattern. One person silently sacrifices, then silently resents, then eventually withdraws, explodes or feels used, but often the relationship was not built on honest agreement. It was built on hidden self-abandonment. This is why kindness without honesty can become dangerous. Real love does not require someone to disappear in order to be accepted. A healthy relationship needs generosity, but it also needs truth. It needs care, but it also needs boundaries. It needs patience, but it also needs the courage to say, "This does not work for me." Another hidden pattern is defensiveness. Defensiveness often appears when a person feels criticized, exposed, or unsafe. Instead of listening, they explain. Instead of reflecting, they argue. Instead of asking, "What can I learn from this?" they ask, "How can I prove I am not wrong?" Defensiveness is understandable because no one enjoys feeling blamed. But when defensiveness becomes automatic, communication breaks down. The other person may come with a genuine concern, but leave feeling unheard. They may say, "You hurt me." And instead of receiving that pain, the defensive person says, "That is not what I meant." They may say, "I felt alone." And the response becomes, "Well, I was busy." They may say, "I need more honesty." And the response becomes, "You always make me the problem." In moments like this, the conversation shifts. It is no longer about understanding. It becomes a courtroom. One person presents evidence. The other builds a defense. And the connection disappears. This does not mean every criticism is fair. It does not mean one person must accept every accusation. But emotional maturity requires the ability to pause long enough to ask, is there something true here? Even if the delivery is imperfect. Is there something I need to understand? Without that pause, every difficult conversation becomes a threat. And when truth becomes a threat, growth becomes almost impossible. Another hidden pattern is expecting others to know what we have not clearly communicated. Many people carry silent expectations. They expect others to notice what hurts them. They expect others to understand what they need. They expect others to sense when something is wrong. They expect love to automatically produce emotional accuracy. But love does not make another person a mind reader. Care does not always mean instant understanding. Someone may love you and still not know what you need unless you say it clearly. This is where many relationships become quietly painful. One person feels disappointed because the other person did not do something they were never directly asked to do. One person feels unloved because the other person did not recognize a need that was never expressed. One person becomes resentful because they expected understanding without communication. Of course, sensitivity matters, awareness matters. A loving person should pay attention, but even attentive people need clarity. Healthy relationships cannot survive on guessing. They need expression. They need directness. They need the courage to say, "This matters to me," not as an attack, not as a test, not as a punishment, but as an honest invitation into understanding. And here is the important part. These hidden patterns are not proof that someone is broken. They are proof that someone adapted. At some point, these patterns may have made sense. Anxious. Reaching may have developed because love felt uncertain. Withdrawal may have developed because conflict felt unsafe. People-pleasing may have developed because acceptance felt conditional. Defensiveness may have developed because criticism once felt humiliating. Silent expectations may have developed because direct needs were once ignored. These patterns often begin as protection, but if they remain unconscious, they become prison walls. They limit how deeply a person can connect. They distort what is happening in the present. They make the relationship carry emotional weight that belongs partly to the past. This is why awareness matters so much. Awareness gives us a pause between the trigger and the reaction. It allows us to say, "This feeling is real, but is it only about this moment? This fear is strong, but is it based on what is happening now?" This impulse to withdraw feels protective, but will it create more distance? This need to defend myself feels urgent, but can I listen first? This expectation feels obvious to me, but have I actually communicated it? These questions do not solve everything instantly, but they create space. And sometimes, space is the beginning of change, because relationships become healthier when people can name the pattern instead of becoming controlled by it. Imagine the difference between saying, "You never care about me," and saying, "When I do not hear from you, I notice an old fear in me that I do not matter. I know that may not be your intention, but I want to talk about it." Imagine the difference between saying, "Leave me alone," and saying, "I feel overwhelmed right now. I need some time, but I do not want to disconnect from you." Imagine the difference between saying, "Fine, I'll do it," and saying, "I want to help, but I need to be honest about what I can actually give." These small shifts change the emotional atmosphere. They move the relationship from accusation to awareness, from reaction to responsibility, from hidden fear to honest communication. And this is one of the deepest signs of emotional maturity. Not that we have no patterns, everyone has patterns, but that we become willing to recognize them. We stop pretending our reactions are always the full truth. We stop making the other person responsible for wounds they did not create. We stop using old fear as evidence against present love. We stop calling silence peace when it is actually avoidance. We stop calling self-abandonment kindness. We stop calling defensiveness strength, and we begin to ask, what am I bringing into this relationship that I have not yet understood? That question is not easy, but it is powerful, because the hidden pattern we refuse to examine often becomes the pattern we keep. We repeat it with different people, in different seasons, under different circumstances. But the emotional script remains the same. We fear being left, so we cling. We fear being hurt, so we hide. We fear conflict, so we please. We fear criticism, so we defend. We fear disappointment, so we expect others to know what we never say. And then we wonder why the relationship feels familiar in painful ways. But awareness gives us a different path. It does not erase the past, but it allows us to stop letting the past silently govern the present. It helps us respond instead of only react. It helps us communicate instead of only protect. It helps us become honest without becoming cruel. It helps us build closeness without losing ourselves. This is why the psychology of relationship always begins with self-understanding, because the way we relate to others is deeply connected to the way we relate to our own fear, shame, needs, boundaries, and memories. If we cannot face what is happening inside us, we will keep acting it out with other people. So as we close this episode, consider this. The problem in a relationship is not always the pattern itself. The deeper problem is when the pattern remains hidden, because what stays hidden stays powerful, but what becomes conscious can begin to change. In the next episode, we will look at why people struggle to communicate honestly, and why many conversations fail not because there are no words, but because there is not enough safety, humility, or emotional courage behind them. If this video gave you something to reflect on, take a moment to like, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments. And before you leave, ask yourself one honest question. What hidden pattern do I bring into relationships when I feel afraid?